Today is the 9th July 2026. Now I was thinking about the year. I'm doing another practice of trying to keep a little bit more eye contact, more consistent, and show my hands and use my hands a little bit more for gesturing. The topic I want to talk about today, is are the limits of our awareness, of my awareness specifically. My awareness. What is awareness? What do I mean with that in the first place? When I talk about awareness, I mean what can I perceive? So, what is my perception? What can I think about? What is my awareness of it? And what am I conscious about it? So, when it's the limits, or knowing my limits of awareness is quite important, because if I don't know the limits of awareness, I don't know what are the edges of that I even think about. And what I think about or what I perceive, yesterday we talked a lot about how perception can shape an experience. Today I want to think a little bit more about how awareness and perception shape the edges of what we can be or what we can then do with it. Because what I cannot perceive very much defines what I can be, and what I can think about, and what I can do. I cannot do or work with something that I'm not aware of. And there are many gaps, or not many gaps. How do we want to talk about this? Let's start with I'm not keeping eye contact while I'm thinking. I mean, that's not a part that I should leave in the final video. But now I lost track completely. Now I'm just gone, just looking at the camera. All right. What is even the topic? Limit of my awareness. What am I not aware of? I wanted to talk about certain pillars, I think, of awareness, but I'm not even sure, to be honest. So let's just leave my thoughts that I have behind, and let's just start anew here. The structure is a little bit difficult today. And it's a little bit weird just looking at the camera while I actually want to look around to just think a little bit, which is also weird, but also it doesn't feel bad in a way. It's weird, but not necessarily uncomfortable. Now I'm just rambling around in this video. All right. My brain is just empty, which makes it really difficult to even think about something that I could be aware of or not aware of. Which is another limit of our awareness. If I'm not able to even think about anything, the limits don't matter. It doesn't matter what I perceive and what I feel and what it is. If I'm not even thinking anything, then nothing will happen, as shown. So let's just break it down. I mean, this will not be any kind of structured or really, this will not be any structured video anyway. I mean, not that anyone is watching any of these videos, so nothing that I'm doing here matters in that sense anyway. It's just practice at this point, as I've said, about keeping eye contact and about using my hands a little bit more to gesture what is going on and what is not going on. So the topic was limit of awareness. We can look at awareness from the side of, I don't know, to be honest. I don't even know where I want to go with this. So maybe I'm just gesturing and looking at the camera while rambling nonsense, which is probably all of my videos, but anyways. Yeah. And my mind is, maybe I shouldn't have done yoga practice before this, and I'm sweating a little bit. Maybe I should do it afterwards, not before. Now my mind is just empty and I can't focus on the topic. Even if I have a little structure, it's not that helpful. Let's try it again. Limits of my awareness. What am I not aware of? What I wanted to start with, I think, was a big limit of my awareness is just more so the bandwidth of what can I perceive. There's just a limit on what our perception can give us as input. I'm not able to perceive anything that even my senses catch up, even a small amount of what I can even perceive, what my senses can give me as an input, even just a small part of that is even getting to me and I'm even aware of it. That's where it just starts, just from the beginning of the input that we are not just not getting, but that we're capable of getting. We're just getting a very small part of that. And that limits on how we perceive. So the focus on what is our mind unconsciously and consciously focusing on what it delivers and what we can then process and perceive and be aware of. That's one of the big parts of where our awareness is limited in ourselves. Then it's, I think, very much limited just when we go to that from the behavior side. What are we focusing on? What am I used to looking at? I'm much more likely to perceive something a way that I'm just used to perceiving it's at, and not perceiving it as something that I haven't perceived it as before. Like changing my perception of something is not something that just happens. I need to do it, or something needs to force me to change my perception so that I perceive something differently, or that I look at something different. Most of the time, we're just doing what we're used to, and so how we learned and what our habits are, they really much bring us in like a line that we walk on, and that limits our awareness and our perception, how we are then using the focus and how we're looking at something, how we are aware of something, and from that, what we can do with it. So this is more so the limits of how much we can kind of perceive, then on what are we perceiving and how are we focusing and how we are limited in controlling this. And this is the last part that I can think about right now. Maybe, probably. I don't know. I will just go forward because I remembered it already enough. That was the first part of my structure. What are the limits more so on in myself? Then I want to talk a little bit about what are the limits of my awareness just on more so on the world. I am limited by awareness pretty much by my senses. It's very difficult to be aware of something that I can't sense. Like, I always like to think when it just comes to, for example, just our eyes, when we see something. Our eyes are really good. But in actually sensing even just visual things, they are actually really bad. I, for example, have the perception that even like here at the corners of my view, I see something in color. I have the perception. I don't see the thing that I focus on, in this time the camera, which is black. I don't just see that in color and all of the other things around me. Not. I perceive them, that I see them in color, which is not the case. Our eyes don't have color sensing at the edge, like at the peripheral area of our view. That's just not how our eyes work. We also don't see things sharp at like the edges of our vision. We only see things sharp, kind of like when we point a thumb out, it's kind of just like the thumbnail. When we look at it, that's actually sharp and that we see in color. It's like a very small spot that we see like in very high resolution and like very sharp and in color, and pretty much everything else is a lot worse from visual, but we don't experience it at that. That's just a point where that's just something where our brain is filtering just like the inputs that we get in a way where we don't even perceive the world from our senses as they are, like what input we get. But then it's so much worse that where visual light is so a small spectrum of light, it's kind of hilarious to think about that our eyes only see such a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum, where we could see so much more. I mean, of course, on Earth, the visual light is most of the light that there is. All of the other electromagnetic spectrum are not that common on Earth. Like UV light is something, but also not as much as the visual spectrum. Of course, more so on the other side, you would have more so the infrared, which we know more so from like heat cameras. That's something that we don't see. We feel it when it's a lot of heat through our skin, but we can't see that like we could see with like heat cameras. We don't have that kind of vision. But that's a part of the world, like the heat signatures around us and the input that we could get is something of the world that we're just not aware of. And there's a lot of these things, not just from the visual spectrum, in many other areas are just factors and aspects of the world there that are just present and are just constantly around us and that are actually an important part of the world that we just can't perceive. So that limits our awareness insanely, just by how our senses are and how we can use them and how we are using them. All of that means for me very much that we see and we perceive a lot less of the world than we experience and how it feels. Like it feels like that what we see, that what we feel, that what we perceive, that what we awareness is all that there is, because, well, it's all that we are aware of. There's nothing more that we are aware of than what we are aware of. Otherwise we would be aware of, which, yeah, what else? So it's our world. Or everything that we are aware of is everything that we are aware of. There's nothing more. So there's not more in the world, if that is our world, because that's literally what makes our world in our brains. And so it feels like that's what we have. But that's not what is out there. That is not what we have to consider. We want to choose the best choices, to create the best behavior, to change our lives, to improve them, to make the world better, to make our lives better. The information that we have and the information and the feel that we have and the awareness that we have might not always be the best. So for me, it's always, from that, I always get the sense of, in a way, we are always wrong. Everything that I do is not enough information. There are always more that I don't know. There's always a way to improve. I need to get better, to have more precise information, to act more accurately on the world. And that's not about I'm not being good enough. It's just about, I think it's very important to always strive to get more information, to be more clearer, to be more accurate with the information that I get. So for me, that's the biggest thing that I take from this is I need to seek information. I can't be satisfied with the awareness that I have. I have to always strive to have more and more accurate information of the things that I'm not aware of, and constantly try to seek them out as best as I can. And there's no goal to reach there. It's always trying to be better, always trying to reach out, always trying to get into the habit to seek information, to try to not rely on the awareness that I just have, to try to expand my horizon, expand the information that I get, seeking new information, seeking new perception. That's what I really get from this kind of thinking, and it has helped me. Having more and more accurate information and learning about what are my limits, what do I not perceive, and how can I push out of my boundaries is something that has helped me a lot. And I hope it could help you. And have a nice day.